Let's talk about the best landing spots for the tight end and wide receiver prospects in the NFL draft. Next on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Welcome to FFT in 5. I'm Chris Towers. I'm here with Emery Hunt, and we're talking about the best landing spots for the wide receiver and tight end prospects in the 2023 NFL draft. And as we speak, we're about 3 days away from the NFL draft. As you listen to this, we'll be 2 days away from the NFL draft, so little time travel there. But Emery, let's talk about the best landing spots for the wide receivers. I'm looking at the mock draft that you published on CBSSports.com on Sunday, and you've got 3 wide receivers going in the first round. Jackson Smith-Njigba is the first one. What's the best landing spot for a wide receiver like him?
I feel like Atlanta, where I have him mocked, is going to be the best spot for him. Although I can see him in Tennessee. They need a dynamic playmaker as well outside of Treylon Burks. I can also see someone using a bigger wide receiver, underrated, kind of like Minnesota could use another receiver. Sure. They tend to stockpile receivers that in a good way there. New Orleans could be a potential spot for a receiver. They have a need. They already have a liking for Chris Olave. You don't know what you're going to get from Michael Thomas, but I doubt Jackson Smith-Njigba falls that far. I bypass the Giants because I feel like the Giants can sit pat on what they've added a bunch at receiver and focus more on offensive line. But I like him in Atlanta, man. I just feel like him, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, along with the run game, a young, improving quarterback in Desmond Ridder makes a ton of sense.
From a fantasy perspective, I just hope they run a more modern offense. I get that Arthur Smith is a run first, run second, usually run third kind of guy, but that offense was just so run heavy that like it made it impossible for Kyle Pitts and Drake London to live up their potential. But that duo already, I think, is one of the best in the NFL, just in terms of the physical skills they bring to the table. So I'd like to see them take advantage of that a little more. Let's move on to the second wide receiver you've got going, Zay Flowers in the first round. What's the ideal landing spot for him?
I love Zay Flowers, man. He's my overall number 1 wide receiver. I feel like Houston would be a great spot. You lose Brandon Cooks, you get someone of similar stature and explosiveness to pluck right in that position. I also feel like some team like New England needs help at receiver. He could help take the top off the defense. He's also a very good catch and run guy. Why not Chicago? Can double down and get another explosive element. I know you bring in DJ Moore. I know you have what you have out there in your big receiver that you got from Pittsburgh, but why not get someone else that can really stretch your defense vertically? So people look at whether or not Cincinnati is going to get rid of T. Higgins or move him. Hey, if you move him, Zay Flowers right there. So I like how teams that understand to stockpile weapons around a young quarterback get it. They get these options. I feel like Flowers can go anywhere and be a star. I wouldn't even discount Kansas City.
Sure.
Losing a Tyreek Hill, adding someone that has the explosive element like Zay Flowers would also make sense there too.
Yeah, KC's definitely a situation where for fantasy, we kind of like the way things shake out right now because, Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore have a lot of potential in that offense. They have the opportunity, but it's certainly a spot where there's a chance for any kind of playmaker to step in and really play a big role. So, obviously catching passes from Patrick Mahomes, not a bad thing for a young player too. Let's move on to a very different type of prospect than Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnston, kind of on the other end of the scale in terms of his size, 6'3", Zay Flowers, 5'9". What's the best landing spot for someone like Quentin Johnston?
And here's the thing. People see 6'3" and think, oh, he's above the rim, Randy Moss type guy going up and snatching off the roof of the defensive back's head. No, he's a shallow catch and run guy. So you think in terms of Buffalo, they have guys that can go vertical in Davis and also Diggs. Get someone that can run underneath. That's also a big guy. You think about the Giants. I know I just made the case for them not going, but they don't have a big catch and run guy. They got smaller catch and run guys. Getting someone that's big and physical that can play that Richie James role that he played last year for New York. Now, I know some people may expect Darren Wallace to fill that role underneath, but why not double down and get bigger guys that can catch and run? I also like Green Bay. Green Bay is another place where even though they don't take receivers in the first round, but they have a type. They love these long receivers. He's 6'3", gives them another weapon on the inside that could save them from drafting a tight end in round 1. So those are some of the options I look for a guy like Quentin Johnston because he's such a unique talent, a catch and run guy. Minnesota also would be another place where he can go because they like the guys that are big, physical, but also someone that has very good rack skills.
It would be kind of ironic if the Packers finally drafted a first-round wide receiver after, presumably trading Aaron Rodgers before the NFL draft, which I think is what we expect to happen. Let's move on to tight end. You have one tight end mocked in the first round. This is expected to be a very good tight end class with, a bunch of guys maybe in day 2, but you've only got one going in the first round. That's Michael Mayer. What's the ideal landing spot for him? Where does he fit in?
I feel like Green Bay is the perfect spot for him because he helps them on the end line in terms of blocking. And we know they want to run the football and they have 2 great running backs they could do it with. But he also helps them as a shallow underneath option in a receiving game to help grow with young quarterback Jordan Love. So I feel like that's the ideal spot. I know people say Cincinnati. I can agree with that as well because we know they need help right there at tight end. Gives young Joe Burrow another receiving option, but also can help spearhead their run game. So I feel like just in the first round, those 2 spots may be perfect. Dallas could also be another opportunity for him to have a great one.
Yeah, Dallas was the other one I was thinking. They do have a pretty big need at tight end. Jake Ferguson currently at the top of the depth chart, but the Packers have been looking for a tight end for the last few years. So that's a situation that would make sense as well. That's going to do it for FFT and 5. We're very close to the NFL draft, but you still got time to get ready. Go to footballgameplan.com/2023 draft guide. Check out Emery's work on every prospect you need to know. We'll see you tomorrow.